The Edgeless Horseman here. I thought I'd just share some thoughts of what we saw today. A lot of people are probably aware that miners ripped, metals ripped. I think GDX ended up around 7% or something, and I don't remember seeing that happening in the last year or so in a day. So it looks like something has really changed, and like I highlighted in I think the last video, I was looking at a break of this RSI wedge here to basically have confirmation that the next multi-month leg up in miners would be starting. And I mean, if we close near these levels, obviously this is a clean break from this pretty obvious trend line, which is obviously very positive, starting at a buy zone that's worked since 2015. Same with the RSC resistance line tend to uh, uh, be broken out of as the resistance in the actual GDX SPY ratio breaks, and you can see that has happened pretty much every major bottom except let's say flash crash, which was kind of I mean that was obviously a liquidity event, so it doesn't share same similarities. But if you just look here again, I mean, why I'm so bullish, especially after today. I mean, it's one thing to have an update. We've seen a lot of false breakouts, etc. But it's another thing to see breaking of this resistance line, which has happened 3 times before, which coincided with a breaking of a downsloping RSC resistance line. So that happened here, obviously, and that was a superb buy. I mean, this period, some juniors went on a 500% rip in 8 months. Obviously, I think that was actually the best quarterly rally ever in the gold miners, and I mean this pattern has more similarities to this than this bottom, even though this was superb as well. Took a bit longer, obviously, to top out, but that was a rally from October 2018 to August 2020. I mean, excluding this, it was a very nice ramp, and some juniors went up at least 200%. Let's say we're not starting off at the same levels in terms of valuations in the juniors now than we did in 2015. I mean, this was when gold was at 1100, but at the same time that also highlights the fact that, I mean, back here at face value the juniors were worthless because the projects were worthless in that metals price environment. This is totally different. Now the juniors should already be up. I mean, I think many should be up around 100% easily. So uh, perhaps, I mean, some even more than that, let's say 300%. Which is obviously, I mean, that's why I'm so super bullish. It's like I don't care about technicals. I mean, I've been buying. I've been buying since 2015. I've been stock picking, obviously. Uh, and On that point, I mean, it's one thing. I see a lot of people, and I tended to do that myself since I'm such a value hound, or I like to buy dips. That you see companies like Argonaut Gold or Fortuna Silver, they crash on really negative news, and people are tend to want to buy the dips, and I understand that because everything that's getting cheaper is something I pay attention to. I mean, that's why I typically buy on any given day. I buy my favorite junior that's simply down the most or up the least, let's say. But at the same time, I mean, it is a big difference of something falling like 40% after a major negative catalyst and something falling 40% on no news. And like we've seen over the last over 12 months, let's say 17 months, we've seen a bunch of juniors fall more than 50% on good news. I mean, they've been putting out news releases that they're hitting gold or whatever. I mean, that's obviously the best situation where you have a uptrend in value and a downtrend in price, whereas these, let's say Argonaut Gold or Fortuna Silver, yes, they have had a severe downtrend in price lately, but the fundamentals also declined, in a significant way. So obviously, if you have a ramp in value and a decline in price, the price to value gap increases. But if the major negative catalyst comes that brings down the value and price also declines, maybe the price to value gap hasn't even expanded. That's just, I guess, a tip. Consider that, I mean, a 50% decline on no news is a lot better than a 50% on negative news, and a 50% on overall positive news is obviously the thing I'm looking for. And I see that in a bunch of juniors. But yeah, again, it's like the technical picture. If history rhymes, it's like if we close around here, that would signal a major buy signal. And of course, this might be a false breakout. It might actually go lower or something like that. But in my opinion, since the valuations are where they are, I mean, the risks are automatically to the upside. So I wouldn't sell regardless how the short looks. So in my opinion, it's like if they would go lower, I would just buy more, which is gonna lead to a even greater return in the future. So I welcome cheaper prices, but at the same time, sure. I mean, if this is the start of the next major leg up in miners, I'm of course not going to be whining, but at the same time, if the market would trade down here or actually go lower, that would be, let's say, if you got 6 months more of picking up even cheaper shares. I mean, the final harvest is going to be a lot bigger if one actually has the fortitude to stick it out and simply keep on buying, which very few people do, obviously. And like we've seen the reaction in some juniors today, some are up 20% on no news, and then we have a stock like Eskay Mining up 20% on really good news. So I mean, that's just interesting that you have juniors where there's no news, they're up 20%, and you have juniors that come out with great news, they're up 20%. So I mean, on one hand, one could say, okay, maybe they should have gone up 20%, without news, and then they have good news. But it doesn't work like that, obviously. I mean, and it just shows how sentiment-driven the market is. It's simply we run out of sellers. So if anyone with some money wants into these juniors, you can see these 20. I think golden tag went up like 25%, which speaks volumes about where the risks are. They're to the upside because we've run out of sellers. For good reason. I mean, the weakest hands, when the weakest hand has left, I mean, there's no sellers left, and there's only potential buyers that are piling up. But like we've seen, I mean, here for example, I mean, one can argue that this was the, let's say, break, and then you had actually 2 weeks of downward movement in the ratio before it went higher. But it doesn't look like the miners actually followed suit. Here, debatable, I mean, here the RSI line broke out, and notice the massive candles, when it broke the RSI, and that's what we're seeing currently right now. So everything fits with a major bottom. But here we also have had a slight decline first for a few weeks before it actually broke out of this resistance. And as you can see, the miners actually, for almost a month after the RC breakout, they treaded water before they started going higher. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though this might be the start of a major ramp in gold miners, and we might be sitting on 200% returns within 12 months on average. That does not mean that I hate this anyway. That does not mean that it will go straight up. because previous two times, I mean, here it kind of went lower for a few weeks, the miners, before they kicked off. Here they actually started ramping immediately. So we don't know, but it's like I don't think if this holds. I don't think. I mean, don't expect every day and every week for the juniors to go higher, because obviously there's a lot of gun shy people right now that have been that feel like they've been burned because they haven't been making money. Obviously, to make the big money, it comes down to buying. So it's like myself, I've been ramping up my buying by quite a bit down here, because I realized you have to buy low before you get the outsized returns. While most people see it as a curse, like, oh, the miners are down here, I'm selling and finding another place to, that's quote working. But I mean, Jesus, I mean, that's when you ought to be buying. That's how it works. That's how you get the outsized returns, obviously, by buying low. So it's not a curse. It's just, sure, if you bought it here, that sucks. But if you, like myself, I ramp up my buying at every low. So even though I have these long periods of uh, excuse me, a decline in the average junior, let's say, I mean, I simply ramp up my buying. So again, it's like, don't I'm my plan is to hodl all my juniors until we reach this level. That might take 8 months, it might take a year, it might be a false break or whatever, but I won't be selling until we hit this. So let Jesus take the wheel, basically, because there's going to be a bunch of opportunities when you feel like you want to sell, because it's going to be volatile. So we might go up 30%, down 15%, up 20, down 20, But I'm after the big move. I'm after the 200%. I'm not cashing out after I see a 20% pop. I mean, they should be already 200% higher, some, in my opinion. And if gold gets going again and silver gets going, I mean, that's just gonna jack up the target price, basically. So yes, to wrap up, this looks extremely encouraging. If we close here, that would be pretty good confirmation that we're at the very, very beginnings of a major leg up that's gonna continue for at least many months, I think. So let's look at some news that's come out recently. Eskay Mining, obviously, highlight of the day, at least for me, since it has become for it's been for some time my largest position, and I'm not intent on selling any shares soon. So this is just becoming a larger portion of my portfolio, basically. I mean, what really stood out, obviously, 4.1 grams per ton AU equivalent over 117. I mean, there's over 400 gram meters at shallow levels, and more high grade stuff. And you can see all the rest of the holes from Jeff were not as good, 2.5 over 5.94 and 1.51 over 11. Again, shallow, so this will probably be mined at least, but not not huge margins, obviously, like the highlighted holes. And I mean, this 3.67 over 27.49. That's like almost 4 gram material. Yeah, almost 100 gram meters actually. 4.70. I mean, most juniors won't see holes like this, and it's extremely rare for a junior to have something like this. That's like Rupert Resources, kind of results. And of course, I mean, the big thing, which is kind of hard to keep in mind, is that well, we could first cover this. So this is orthographic projection looking down dip. I mean, this is why Eskay Mining, in my opinion, is so fascinating and unique. It's one thing to have one VMS system. It's a different thing to have stacked VMS systems. So I mean, if this interpretation is correct, for example, I mean, the things they've been drilling at Jeff, and Jeff has put out some stellar. I mean, this from February, early 2021. Eskay Mining reached 35.5 meters, grading 9.5 grams per ton AU, etc. And that's from Jeff. And today's highlight hole of 4 grams per ton over Hansa, that's from, excuse me, that's from TV. So both of these systems have shown, pretty obscene quality so far. Because also keep in mind, there's drilling pretty much blind or semi-blind. I mean, we're still just probing around to see where everything is. So it's not like we know where the best parts of any system is. It's not like we know where the guts of any of these systems are. And again, we haven't even found, I mean, the stuff they're hitting at Jeff, which produced that, 35 meters of 10 gram, that's in a stratigraphic unit pretty much that hasn't yet been drilled at TV. It's not a guarantee it's there, but I mean, consider the fact that if these stacked VMS systems, if Jeff is open to the upside, and we're already getting, those kind of numbers in one of the horizons, and then we have TUE, which is open, down stratigraphy. I mean, the stuff here might be present here, and then we haven't even hit the upper limit, because now they think that, okay, this might be another feeder even higher up. So there might be an additional VMS mound. And then we're getting closer to the actual Eskay Creek Eskay Creek contact mudstone stratigraphic unit. So I mean, this is not even in the Eskay Creek, the original Eskay Creek package of rocks. So I mean, it's just it's almost a bit ridiculous. It's like, where does it end? How how thick are these systems vertically? And then of course we have the fact that these might connect in some way on one horizon or more horizons. And again, the obscene thing is like it's easy to look at the TV and Jeff drill results and say, oh boy, I mean, this might be a this might be a this is like what, almost 2 kilometers, and there's a bunch of sky time anomalies. They believe that this trend here basically could be 6 kilometers in total of VMS pods basically, or feeder zones that spat out VMS. So who knows how big TV and Jeff is? And we know that both have shown incredible grades, and especially coupled with the widths. And we don't know how let's say tall these systems are. So you have the vertical potential, which is kind of ridiculous. Then you add that to the lateral potential. And that's just for TV and Jeff. I mean, any junior would kill to hit what they've hit so early on while blinding semi-blind, or maybe one could call it blind, when they're just prodding around basically, and they're getting these types of. I mean, that I think speaks to the robustness of the systems. And again, anyone would kill for that. And then we have the Bleg sample results, which I mean, this whole trend here of, I don't know how far that is, but like, I don't know, 10, 15 kilometers. That's one. And then you have an anticline here. And then you have the eastern anticline. And up here, I think that's Vermilion or Scarlet Ridge, perhaps. And then you have this cluster. And then you have something, I mean, That's what's hard, and here they have basically outlined the Bleg anomalies on top of the SkyTem data, and obviously you can see that especially this one, where TVNGF is, follows this trend. And this is the footprint, pretty much, of the original Eskay Creek deposit. It might even be Skina's current deposit. So if you combine that, that's what, 9 million ounces? I mean, that fits just between TV and Jeff easily, and they believe there's potential for 6 kilometers here. And this thing here, today it would be worth, I mean, Skina's project today is worth over $1 billion. The original Eskay Creek, I mean, Kaiser believes it's worth around 3 to 4 billion, I think. So that's like 4 to 5 billion in total. Now we haven't hit the Eskay Creek type mineralization, let's say. We haven't, hit the super bonanza stuff. But the results we're getting from the lower units, I mean, do we even need it is the question. Because again, Skina has 1 billion plus, I think, in NPV from the remnants of the Eskay Creek deposit, which I think the average, the resource grade is around, 3 to 4 grams per ton. That's kind of the stuff we're hitting here, and some higher, obviously. So that's what makes it so hard, because at face value, you look at Eskay Mining, it's like, okay, this is early stuff. Yes, they've had some obscene results, but it's like, yeah, again, but it's early. But you're not buying the TV and Jeff deposit when you're buying SK. The 450 million or whatever is obviously, I mean, you get the entire district for that. So you get TV, Jeff, and everything else. And this postage stamp here was worth 4 to 5 billion. So that kind of, I mean, highlights why I think, I mean, the blue sky in Eskay Mining is obscene. And I'm not gonna even try to guess what the next news release says, for example. What I'm betting on is that within a couple of years, they will have found a lot more, drilled a bunch of targets, made TV Jeff and grow, TV and Jeff to grow tremendously. So I'm sitting pat, waiting for this to play out over the coming years, and hopefully do a Great Bear Resources kind of trip. And I mean, honestly, the potential here is obviously a lot higher than what Great Bear had. I mean, that was still one system, let's say. And if this postage stamp could be worth more than Great Bear, you can imagine what the total blue sky potential is. Not that anything is guaranteed, but I'm given the recent news releases, I'm really starting to think that I think the current market cap will be more than backed by TV and Jeff alone. So you buy the entire district going into a gold bull in one of the best jurisdictions in the world, and you have Pretium to the right, and you have Franco-Nevada invested in this one. So you're surrounded by majors in the hottest jurisdiction. You have the hottest, you control 85% of the VMS camp that produced the most, highest grade precious metal VMS deposit, and you're getting these kind of results already, and it looks like TV and Jeff might be a monster in itself. So it's like 450 million might turn people off, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, the blue sky is that crazy, multi-billion potential for sure, and we haven't even begun to touch any of the others. So I mean, personally, I think TV and Jeff is going to be a company maker itself, and I would be happy to have success at here or here or here, or at Siblulu, or Vermilion, this area, why not here as well. So I look at this, I'm pretty much getting everything for free, and that's a runway. I like long runways where I can just hodl a stock basically, and this could, I don't know how many, I mean, they could be drilling here for decades, I guess, and it would still be growing. That's almost unique in the space. I mean, I think Eskay Mining is kind of unique in that sense. I mean, I don't think there are many companies that rival Eskay Mining in terms of total blue sky potential. You know, can't come up with many. And uh, and I mean, just looking at the chart, for example, I actually don't know if Eskay Mining, was Eskay Mining back here, but I know that Mac has been sitting on the property, for a long time. But if you have a 32-year long trend line that's breaking out, I mean, I haven't seen a stock with this kind of consolidation, and I mean, people could correct me if they think, let's say that it was another company altogether or whatever. But regardless, let's say it started here. That's still one of the biggest breakouts, consolidation patterns I've ever seen, which thankfully jives with the fact that it has the highest blue sky potential I've ever seen. So yeah, I'm holding tight to my shares, and I mean, no guarantees, but I'm hoping to hodl this one for who knows, maybe a 10 bagger yet. And even more if we go into real gold and silver bull and they find a bunch of other targets. But again, consider me biased. This has become my largest position. So yeah, I got a lot of skin in the game. They are a sponsor as well, and yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I'm not. Again, I'm not gonna even try to guess what the next new, because there's a bunch of holes left. I'm not gonna even try to guess that, because I'm holding for the next 20 or 30 news releases. And some will be better than others. Some days we will have, down 15%, some days up 15%, etc. I'm just gonna ride through it like the people that, if you went into Great Bear, you had to suffer through a bunch of 30 to 50% corrections on the way to a 20 bagger. That's my plan. Labrador Gold, excuse me, announces doubling of drill program to 100,000 meters and increase to 5 drill rigs. Obviously, really good signal value because Roger has been quite conservative with cash. I mean, they have 30 million, so they're ramping up, and they have a bunch of targets to test. Obviously, these are the now quite famous zones for newfound gold, and it's obviously on strike from where Labrador Gold is drilling, and it's not like nature knows where the claim boundary begins or stops. So there's multi-kilometers potential here, and they found, they're fighting smoke. And they already, I mean, recently they put out a news release of like 57 grams per ton over 2 point some meters. Not Keat zone stuff yet, at least, but obviously there's a bunch of gold there. And the best part, in my opinion, for both Labrador and Newfound Gold, I mean, they're basically, when they hit high grade, they put out the tentacles and slowly, methodically grow from the high grade zone. So and that obviously means that there's a higher likelihood that the next news release will actually have high grades, because they're creeping their way out. They're not stepping out and drilling wildly where they might get a lot of misses. No, they're feeling their way outwards from these high grade zones. So from a tactical perspective, I mean, you've seen the rise in Newfound Gold. That's because they just kept pumping out high grade to bonanza grade results in a lot of news releases. So, I mean, we know what the market likes. Market typically likes high grade. So if you have a play like this, where you're gonna do a 100,000 meter drill program, or on the way of doing it, with 5 drill rigs, obviously there's gonna be, over the coming 12 months, there's gonna be a bunch of assay results. So what do I think is the risk to the upside or downside? I think it's to the upside. I think this looks like some kind of, bull flag. This was obviously a consolidation as well, and then it had a big ramp when it broke out from this. yeah, 420%, and depending on what one would consider the flagpole, if this is indeed a if this is indeed a bull flag, I guess that's at least 67% higher. So, and again, I mean, I haven't sold a share in Labrador yet, and if I had to guess, with the coming 75,000 meters left to be drilled, do I think the value of Labrador will have gone up or down? I'm guessing up. Maybe up a lot. I have no idea. So yeah, I mean that's my case basically. Okay, if I'm what do I expect will have happened if I sit through 75,000 meters of drilling? I think they will have put out a lot of high grade hits, and that the Kingsway project will have grown. What I don't, what I will not do is try to guess which news release might lead to a jump in price or a declining price. That's a fool's errand in my opinion, because A, you don't know the results, B, you don't know the reaction to the results. But if I hold through the entire drill campaign, I can, guesstimate that on average, or balance of probabilities would dictate that the value of the company will have grown. So let's say the value of the company grows 100%, and the market is still pretty shit. Maybe I might not have made much money, but if market is, pretty okay, maybe I'm up 100%. If the market is good, maybe I'm up 300%. I mean, we have no idea. It's just that that's what I like about probable growth stories. That even in a pretty shitty market environment, if they keep on adding value, it's going to be a, you're not going to go down as much as the trading sardines typically. And you can even, I mean, Newfound Gold withstood a junior sentiment in decline, and actually ramped from when gold topped out 2 years ago and went, not straight down, but traded down for many months, over a year perhaps. Newfound Gold during that period of time went up like 300%. So there's a shot that you can actually, let's say, make money in that sense, or get paid in a declining market if you have a good growth stock. And I think Labrador, even though it's, I mean, they don't have even close to a resource, so it's still a high risk, high reward story. But again, my case is that yes, I believe that if I just hold Labrador Gold and see through 75,000 meters of drilling, I think the value of the company will be higher, and I think the stock will be higher, perhaps a lot higher. Newfound Gold, the bigger brother, they put out a news release, 98.13 over 3.85 meters at Golden Joint, extending the high grade zone to 300 meter vertical depth. And interesting, I mean, it wasn't, in the headline because it wasn't Bonanza, but it's like, here you have the, Bonanza grade, but, not far off, you still like, okay, I don't know what the true width is, but 6 meters or 3 grams per ton. Something's kicking around here and something's kicking around here. So that's still 4 different intervals of, kind of low grade to Bonanza grade. And we have no idea how nuggety the system might be. Maybe this vein or whatever it was, maybe it's considered to be part of the same vein. I actually don't know. But who knows? It might fluctuate. I mean, what created this in some area might create, I don't know, 10 grams per ton, or maybe this will go down to 15 grams per ton. But I like the fact that it's, looks like there's some kind of stacked thing going on here. And, I mean, again, what I said about Labrador Gold, it's obviously true for Newfound Gold. All these diamond markings here, those are pending results. So here, for example, you have 430 grams per ton over 5.25 meters, and they're going to be drilling these holes. Would you say that there's a fair chance that one or more of these might show bonanza grade as well? Yes, I think so. Same here, 50 meters over 4.25, that's high grade. What do I think these will show? Could some of these produce a high grade news release? I think so. This was the reported hole. This was, again, I mean, this is an example. Here they had 70 grams over 5.25. Not far off, they had 98.13 over 3.85. So what are the odds of, this perhaps also having bonanza? And here you have a high grade and pretty thick hole. So what are the odds for these? I mean, not all of these will have high grade to bonanza, obviously. But there's from a, again, tactical perspective, it's a fair chance that at least some of these will produce news releases with barn burner results. And it would be a different story if they drilled, here, there, and there. Because they might be, be completely out of the, burrito, like Quinton likes to say. And again, I mean, that's golden joint. I mean, you see all these gray diamonds here. That's the Keat zone with holes pending. And here's Dome, and here's Lotto. So, I mean, and they're doing what? I don't know, 200,000 drill meters or something. I mean, hypothetical. If you sat in newfound gold right now or bought, look ahead of the market. So it's like, okay, over the next 12 months, and they drill, who knows, 70,000 meters. Maybe they even can pull off more than that. How do you foresee the stream of news to be? I can see, I don't know, let's say 10 news releases at least, which should have high grade to bonanza grade. So what do you think the short or the stock is going to do if you sit through, let's say, 100,000 meters of drilling? Do you think it will show that all of this has, become worse, that all of these hits, let's say, on average are very poor, or might they in fact continue to hit because they haven't found the limits to any of the systems yet? I would personally not be surprised if we, over the coming 12 months, have, like they've done before, a continuous stream of high grade to bonanza grade results. Not from, not in every news. I mean, no way that in a nuggety system, no way that every hole will be have bonanza. I mean, the 5 meters to the right, you might hit bonanza, and then and you hit almost nothing in the 5 meters to the left. So that happens. And we also have the nugget issue, let's say, that could be a wrench in the machinery. I don't think so. And many of these holes are so high grade that even if they would be 50% off, that would still be exceptional. So my base case is that if I sit in newfound gold for 12 to 24 months, I think newfound gold will have come out with a lot of good drill results, and I think that regardless of how it fluctuates, let's say, I think we will be higher. I think that the Queensway project will have grown quite a bit in the next 100,000 meters of drilling, and I think that's going to be reflected by an increase in share price. I might be wrong again, and it's not like newfound gold is super cheap, but again, if you just from a tactical perspective, I think a lot of these gray ones here, they're gonna produce nice news releases. And obviously, I mean, it's Palisades, for example, is the largest shareholder. I don't think those guys like pissing away money. So there's a reason why they're drilling so much, because if they thought it was actually a shit project, they would just be obviously torching money on fire, well, setting money on fire. I don't think they're stupid. So I think that there's a reason, and same with Labrador Gold, why they are expanding and going so aggressive as they are. So I expect this to be I could say a repeat of this, basically a consolidation which we've done now, and of course with the whole mining sector looks to be having bottomed, you're gonna have a tailwind, big tailwind. So some, 100,000 meters with perhaps a lot of high grade and bonanza grade results on the back of a mining sector that's getting hot. Yes, I personally expect this to break out and go on a ramp again. Golden Tag, a silver junior in Mexico. It's not a tier 1 project. They have quite a small land package. It's not a lot larger than the deposit itself, but they're racking up some, quite a bit of silver. I don't even remember how much silver they have, AG equivalent, around, I think 200 to 300 million ounces, something like that. And they hit a pretty fat intercept here, obviously 100 grams per ton AG equivalent over 329 meters. So they have a, I guess somewhat low grade but bulk deposit. And will this be a mine? I don't know. There's a mine nearby. A larger producer owns a mine quite close to it. So is there a shot that this actually becomes a mine someday? Well, I think so, but again, it's not a tier 1 project, but it's not valued like it. And I mean, we know that if you have this much silver, 200 to 300 million ounces of silver, I mean, they can rip in a good junior environment. And if you look at the chart, I mean, I find it kind of interesting. I mean, this also looks like a bit actually like SK. It's like fat consolidation, and I don't know what the company was back here, but this looks like a bull flag. And again, if we're here now and the gold mining, the mining bull is starting to kick off, I mean, obviously I would expect this to break higher, especially with the help of intercepts like this. I think it actually went up 25%, even more at some point. So that also speaks, I think, to the lack of, most sellers are already out. So these juniors are getting very sensitive to the upside. It doesn't take that much capital to move them. And again, if we're at like week 1 of a major run in the miners, this gonna probably break out. And if we zoom out even more, then we have over a decade long, either one could call it a cup and handle or a reverse head and shoulders. Either way, that this looks like a fat consolidation pattern. And if it breaks this level, let's say, I mean, then I could see all hell breaking loose. That would probably coincide with a very hot market in the juniors. Certainly not a core position, but if you like the bait, I want to play silver juniors, let's say. I think this is, this could be a real ripper. I wouldn't put my whole net worth in it, and they're actually, I mean, they're doing stuff. They're drilling, so it's not like Bear Creek Mining where they're actually not doing anything with their project. They're actually they're actually doing work as well. So they're trying to create value and have been creating value over the last 12 months. So that's also obviously good to see. You want a rising value, of course, especially if price declines, etc., which means the price to value gap keeps increasing. So I mean, again, it's like for the ones that can suffer through swings, etc., and like, you know, play the silver juniors, I think this is highly levered. But I wouldn't call it, you know, it's not a tier one project. But that doesn't mean it, you know, you couldn't get a multi-bagger in this one. And who knows, maybe they'll, you know, create a lot more value. I mean, I guess the jury's still out. Yeah, so that's an idea at least. SK, Labrador, Golden Tag, and Newfound Gold, they are all sponsors of the Hedgeless Horseman, and I own shares of all of them. So consider me consider me biased. Make up your own opinion. I'm just sharing my thoughts here. So yeah, hopefully this, depending on if you have dry powder or not. I mean, if you have a, you know, expecting a lot of dry powder, obviously you wouldn't want the mining sector to kick off right now. But if you're a, yeah, I mean, I'm happy either way. If this is a false breakout, I'm just gonna be buying more and suffer a bit more before I, you know, make even more money. So it's a win-win in my opinion. I'm not against the mining sector starting a fat bull run, because that's gonna, you know, I might be able to retire at the next sentiment high. But at the same time, if it goes lower, I'm just gonna be buying more. So when the eventual harvest comes, I'm just gonna, you know, have a bigger harvest basically. So that's how I look at things. That's why I've been, you know, buying like crazy recently. Why I, you know, buy all the time, and especially at bottoms when everyone else is selling, because you know, I'm getting ready for this ratio to hit this level. And if it goes down here first, who cares? I mean, that's just gonna mean that if it goes down here, maybe my money, my new money invested will have, you know, expected returns of 400%. So that just gets me even closer to a theoretical retirement. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you want to, so you get, you know, notice when I put up a new video. Happy hunting.